Of our US correspondent Mark Stone, who has spoken to President Donald J. Trump. Mark, great to have you with us. What did the president have to say?
Well, he's upbeat. I spoke to him between the two posts that you referenced there. The first post came about an hour and a half before his self-imposed deadline. That was 8 p.m., the deadline, Eastern time. Remember, that was a point at which 24 hours earlier, he had said if Iran didn't meet his demands, he would effectively, I'm paraphrasing, all hell would break loose in Iran. He'd bomb the power plants, he'd bomb the bridges. It was extraordinary language we heard from the president. But an hour and a half before that, as you have outlined, he decided that he would accept this 10-point plan and accept this 2-week delay. After that, we called him. I called him, and he picked up. He doesn't always, but he did this time. And it was only a short call. These calls are very often very short, about a minute and a half. He said, "I haven't got long. Be quick, he said. And so I asked him, how he was feeling with this ceasefire in place. It's great, he said. It's very good. He then went on to say that he believes that we've done everything we wanted to do militarily. He described it to me as a complete victory, a victory in military terms, and then he said, actually, in every other sense as well, a complete victory. That is how he is framing this war, which has lasted for just over a month. Now, I put it to him, and I think this is really important. As you outlined there, what appears to have happened is the president has accepted an Iranian position, which is 10 points. They're outlined in this document here, the National Security Council, Supreme National Security Council statement that came out overnight via Iranian media. And in these 10 points, this is really important, there are maximalist Iranian demands, like all American troops out of the Middle East, not just those that have come for the war, but all of them. Like that Iran should control the Strait of Hormuz, something they didn't do before this war. Now they get to do that as part of this proposal, and also the removal of all sanctions. A few other things as well. These are absolute maximalist Iranian demands. They are something the Americans could never accept. And yet Donald Trump is saying that now they form the viable basis for a negotiation that he thinks could last just 2 weeks. So I put it to him, how is this? How are these proposals anything like anything workable that America could agree to? And he said to me, you don't know what the points are. You don't know what they are. I do know what they are. He then went on to say they're very good points, and that most of them, this is intriguing, most of them have been fully negotiated already. So he is disputing the Iranian position, suggesting that the negotiations are already well developed. Remember, we didn't even know they were directly negotiating. Now he's saying, claiming that they are well developed, and that they are not the maximalist demands that Iran is claiming in their side of the statement. So something doesn't quite add up here. He then said, if it isn't good, we'll go right back to it very easily. I assume by that he's meaning we'll go right back to the fighting. Then he said, I've got to go now, and he ended the call. So it wasn't fulsome, but it was certainly added a lot, I think, to what has been kind of a dizzying night.
Extraordinary that you got to speak to him on such an important night, Mark. Tell us a bit more about his mood. What did you make of his demeanour?
Well, as I say, he was upbeat. And you know what's very interesting? This is the first time we've had his number for a little while. A lot of journalists, I think this is kind of worth pointing out, because it's odd, it's unusual. There are not many world leaders who A, allow their phone number to be out and about, and B, will just pick up to people. But Trump's not any world leader. And his number over the course of a few months has circulated among journalists here in Washington, D.C. We've had it for a little while. We've tried to call a few times. He hasn't answered. And tonight, seemed like a pretty good night to try and speak to the American president. And so we called him. Four or five rings, and he picked up. And it kind of halfway through the, I think he sort of said hello before he'd actually answered the phone. So I only picked up the sort of second half of it. And he said, yeah, or something like that. So I had to clarify that it was him, and then clearly it was, and the conversation got going. But he was upbeat. Clearly, he has just got a ceasefire. It may be one that he has, some might argue, capitulated to get, but he's got one. The fighting has stopped. That's really important. The Strait of Hormuz appears to be opening up. That's really important. The other point I'd make, which I think is interesting, is that, I sort of observe President Trump daily. I was in the briefing room yesterday when he was there, or the day before, whenever it was. We see him on the cameras all the time. People who spend time with him privately often say he's a different person privately, or can be a different person privately. World leaders who deal with him will often say that. And I got a little hint of that in this phone call. He was polite. He was courteous. He thanked me for calling him. He thanked me at the end for calling him. So it wasn't the bombastic President Trump that we are all used to. It was a little hint of that other President Trump that people so often refer to. And it's still the same guy, the guy who a day earlier had been making these utterly extraordinary, unprecedented remarks about removing a civilization, and then 24 hours later on the phone to him, where he's saying it's great, it's a good night, we've got a ceasefire, a complete victory.
Extraordinary stuff, Mark. And look, we're on now another Trump timeline, aren't we? We now have got 2 weeks until we see where this thing ends up. What's your sense of that in the hours after the ceasefire seems to have come into force?
Well, he's kicked an almighty great from surely a position. I mean, he in his call to me, he's saying, look, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what the points are. I do know what the points are. But we know what the points are in the sense that Iran has published them. So unless something, as I say, someone's not being straight here. But there is an awful lot to do to try in 2 weeks to try and get to an actual position, a common position, which can turn something temporary